Good morning, everyone. As we get started, let me make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. What's going on? No loose ends over there on IG. Make sure every stream is working the way it's supposed to. That's good. That's good. That's good. We good over here. We good over here. Am I missing something? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We're good. Hope everybody's having a great morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is for you. What we're going to talk about here today is why some people seem to always win and some people seem to always lose. Maybe some of you listening to this might feel like you are in one of these positions right now. I'm going to explain to you why it happens, so that the reason I want to explain why it happens is because if you find yourself consistently winning, or you would like to consistently win, then you can take what I'm going to share with you here today and actually start applying it and doing it. And if you find yourself in a position right now where you feel like you are losing a lot and you're just not getting the things you want a lot, so when I say losing, that's what I mean, then you can deconstruct from what I'm going to explain here today, because I'm going to explain it, why this is happening to you, why you are how you may be bringing these things onto yourself, because we got to take responsibility. More responsibility, we take more ownership and power we have to influence the situation, and you can reverse the issue or reverse whatever energy you have or momentum you have going in a direction that you don't want to go in. So this is really about what we're going to talk about here today, is about habits of thought, because the way that you think leads to the things that you do, and the things that you do lead to the outcomes that you experience. Simple as that. And everything starts back at the way we think. Even if you're dealing with the outcome or you're dealing with the actions, all of those are sourced through mindset. So really what we're talking about is habits of thinking today, again, and that leads to, again, habits of actions and consistency of outcomes that everybody experiences. Most of us can see our actions, and we can measure and look at the things that we do, and we can measure and look at the outcomes that we get, but we do not often put as much emphasis on looking at our mindsets and the way that we think. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. I'm going to explain these. I'm going to explain how they lead to our results, so that once you understand this more, and you can be more conscious and intentional about it. And those are two words that I use a lot here: conscious and intentional, meaning you have to be actively thinking about how you are thinking, because most thought is subconscious, meaning we're not aware that it's happening. So when you become more aware of it, you have more power to do something about it if you want to. Maybe you'll realize the way you're thinking is perfect and you don't need to change it. But you may also realize that some of the ways that you're thinking are slowing you down, getting in your way, and hampering your progress. And then when you become aware of it, instead of letting your subconscious mind run things, which is the part that you're not consciously aware of, when you become aware of it, now you can do something about it. And that's the most important thing when it comes to mindset. So it'll be more obvious to you once you understand what I'm going to explain here today, why some people seem to always be successful and other people seem to never be able to make it happen, no matter how hard they try or how much they want it. Everybody got it? Good. So introducing myself, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks to create this brand called Work on Your Game. Our goal here is 3 specific things: helping you perform at your highest possible level, doing it consistently, and producing results. Performance, consistency, results. And that's all based on extracting the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports game. And we have translated those over through our system into the professional and the business world, so everyone understands where I'm coming from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And there are many different methods through which we do it. We have books, we do speeches, we do coaching, we do consulting, we have courses, we got all kinds of ways that we do it. And this conversation we're having with you right now is one of the ways that I get this point across. So let's get into it. I got 3 points I'm going to share with you here today. And again, this is really going to be based on the way that you think. So I'm going to make sure that I explain this in a way that everybody can get it. Because again, you can look at and measure a person's actions and behavior. You cannot look at and measure a person's mentality. So when you understand this, it'll help you better understand how everything else, or why everything else is happening. So the first one, and our topic again today, is why it seems like some people always win and some people always lose. Number one reason is by choice. Yes, by choice. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, Dre, I get that some people win all the time by choosing, but you're thinking to yourself, well, Dre, I want to win all the time, and I've chosen to win all the time, but I'm not winning all the time. So how does what you say make sense? Or you may be asking, you're asking, well, who in their right mind would choose to lose or fail or come up short over and over and over again. How do you even make sense of making this statement? I'm going to tell you, both success and failure are a conscious choice. Whether you know it or not, whether you want to recognize it or not, whether you want to accept it or not, both success and failure are a conscious choice. And let me explain to you what I mean. If you don't make a choice, let's say you make no choice whatsoever, you are listening to me and you're thinking, well, Dre, I never even thought about whether I want to be successful or if I want to fail. I didn't make a conscious choice. Like, you really were thinking about it. You never thought about it in this way. What happens to the person who never makes a choice? Well, the person who never makes a choice, you fail. Just getting that part out the way. The person who doesn't make a choice fails. Now, how can I be so sure of this? The reason I'm sure of that is because the law of entropy, which any of you who's not a scientist, or maybe you don't remember science class from school, or maybe your science class didn't even teach it. I did not learn this in science class at school, and I don't remember it from school, and I'm not a scientist. The reason I know it is simply because I just looked it up and understood it. The law of entropy states, and I'm putting this in my own words, the law of entropy states that anything, especially anything man-made that is left to its own devices, eventually descends into a state of chaos and disorder. So anything left by itself descends into chaos and disorder. If you just leave it alone and do nothing, you end up in chaos and disorder. Let me give you an example. If you go a month and you never brush your teeth or floss your teeth at all for an entire month, what's going to happen to your teeth? Your gums and your teeth are probably going to be in pretty bad shape, right? Because you didn't do anything. You just left them alone, just let them be. If you were in shape, but then you just stop working out, you don't do any workouts whatsoever, you don't go to the gym, you don't take a walk, you don't do any type of exercise at all, what happens to your body? Usually it goes into a worse shape, right? A worse state. When you were in kindergarten or second grade and your main teacher did not come to school that day and the substitute teacher walks into the room, what do the kids in the room usually think immediately as soon as they see the substitute teacher walk into the room? They understand that, okay, the classroom is going to be a zoo today, and it's basically playtime, and we don't have to do real work because the main teacher is not there. The point is, anything that is left to its own devices and there is nothing keeping it in check, like that leads to chaos and disorder. So the reason that you brush your teeth every day is not necessarily to make your teeth better, it's just to make sure they don't get worse, right? Is to get whatever is stuck in there, you've been eating all day or drinking all day, you want to get them cleaned up. The reason you floss, same thing. The reason you go to the dentist, hopefully, twice a year or however often you go to the dentist, is why? To make sure that any bad stuff that's happening in there gets fixed up. Same reason we go to the gym. You may not even be trying to achieve anything new when it comes to working out, but you just want to make sure your body stays in shape. You don't want to get overweight. You want to keep your muscle tone. You want your curves to be in all the right places for the ladies. You want your muscles to be in the right places for the men. The reason that you do that is to stave off the chaos and disorder. And again, this is a law of entropy, folks. So this is not a theory. This is not something that I just made up or found on the internet. This is a law of science that if you leave anything by itself, it will just descend into chaos. I'll give you another example. Any of you who is you live in a house and you have a lawn outside of your house. If you don't do anything to the lawn, meaning you never cut the grass, you don't plant any flowers, or you simply don't pull the weeds, or you don't pick up the trash and somebody threw some trash in your lawn, or if dogs poop in it and you don't get that poop cleaned up, what happens to your lawn? Then eventually the lawn just looks a complete mess, and it looks so bad that people walk past your house and they wonder, does anybody even live in this house? And if it looks like people live in the house, but the lawn looks like that, then people are going to make a judgment about you. This is the law of entropy. All right, nobody's doing anything to tend to a thing. It just gets worse. Everybody got it? So what does this have to do with achieving success? Very simple. If you do not make the decision to achieve success, then the law of entropy takes over and you descend into chaos and disorder. So many people are coming up short in life because you have never made the decision to be successful. If you don't decide to be successful on purpose, the default is you fail. Does everyone understand this? If you don't make a decision, the default is a decision is made for you. And by human nature, laws of human nature, you will end up failing if you don't make a decision to be anything other than a failure. If you do nothing, you go backwards. See, most people think, many of you may think that if you do nothing, you just stay in the same spot, then you will be neutral. But I want you to understand that there is no neutral for human beings. There's no such thing as you being neutral. You can't stay in the same space. There's no such thing as they say, maintaining the status quo. That's not actually a thing. That's an oxymoron. Why am I saying it's impossible to maintain the status quo? Because every day you are growing one day closer to death. Every day you are either getting better or you're getting worse. You are building or destroying. You are growing or dying. This is a binary. There is no in between. You can't be in between building and destroying. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. That's it. Every single day you're getting smarter or you're getting dumber based on what you do with your mind, what you are taking in, what you are engaging with, and what you are sharing. You cannot be neutral. So anytime you tell yourself, I just want to maintain the status quo, understand that you're lying, because no such thing as maintaining the status quo. You are getting one day closer to death. Entropy is taking over. If you're just trying to stay in the same spot, you must do something on purpose to make sure that you either maintain what you have or you are moving yourself forward. And again, since every day you're getting older and a day closer to death, assuming that you're a fully grown adult, then that means you're actually going backwards. Think if you were on a treadmill. Just picture standing on a treadmill that's not turned on, and then you turn the treadmill on. Doesn't even matter if it's going super slow. If you turn the treadmill on and you don't move, but you're standing on it, what's going to happen? The treadmill is going to throw you off because the treadmill is moving and you're standing still. That means by definition, you are going backwards. So any of you who's trying to be neutral, or you're trying to stay in the same space, or you're trying to maintain the status quo, whatever that means to you, you're actually going backwards. You can't try to do it, and you can't actually do it. You actually go backwards. That's really what's happening anytime you tell yourself that you are staying in the same space. People who move forward consistently are intentional about moving forward consistently. That's why they do it. It's not because they are lucky. It's not because they're more talented than you. It's not because of the resources that they have. I'm not saying that they couldn't be these things. Maybe they are lucky. Maybe they do have more talent than you. Maybe they do have resources, but there are people with all of those things who still fail. So that's not the differentiating point. There are people with talent who don't succeed. There are people with resources who just make a waste of their resources and don't do anything with them. And there are people who have very little talent, no luck, and very few resources, but they still become successful, right? Okay, so that eliminates the whole point of somebody's winning just because of talent, luck, or resources. People win because they choose to win. And choosing to win means you have to do things on purpose that lead to success. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? And if you're not doing things on purpose that lead to success, then it makes perfect sense that you are not getting to the outcomes that you want. And this starts as a way that you think, ladies and gentlemen, not what you do. It starts with how you think. So at this point, you can call this decision as well as I called it choice, but you could also call this making a decision. The word decision, many people do not know this. The word decision comes from I believe the root is Latin, and the root word is decidere. And the word decidere means literally, it means to cut off. So the word decision that we use today in English, the root of it, the etymology, that's like the root where words come from, is the word decidere, and the word decidere means to cut off. So what does that have to do with anything? A decision means, if you break down the word decision, then you've heard the word incision. All of you heard that word before, incision. What's an incision? An incision is a cut, right? So decision means you are cutting off every other option besides the one that you have decided on, that you have chosen. So when I make a decision that I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, once I make that decision, what am I cutting off? I'm cutting off waking up at 5:15. I'm cutting off waking up at 6 o'clock. I'm cutting off, I'll just sleep till I'm done sleeping, and whatever time I wake up is the time that I wake up. I'm cutting all of those things off because I made a decision that I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. All right, that's what a decision means. A decision means you are cutting off every other possibility, and this is the one thing that we're going to do. And the reason many people come up short when it comes to creating success is that many of you simply fail to make decisions. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. I think many of you have heard of it if you haven't read it. And if you haven't read it, go get it. And in that book, Napoleon Hill talks about the 31 major causes of failure. He gives 2 lists. He has actually several lists in the book. One of them is the 17 principles of success. Notice 17 ways to be successful. Then he mentioned 31 ways to be a failure, 31 major causes of failure. And at the beginning of that list, I can't remember if it was number 1, number 2, or number 3, but it was one of the highest ones he had on the list, is indecisions. Reason that people become failures is because they do not make decisions. And when you haven't made a decision to be successful, then again, I just explained to you the law of entropy. The only thing left is for you to fail. Again, there's only succeed or fail, folks. This is a black and white binary, meaning you only got 2 choices. There's no in-between choice between succeeding and failing. You've got to pick one. And if you don't pick one will be picked for you. And by human nature, laws of human nature, it will be failure. This is the reason why many people come up short in life, because they don't understand this. Therefore, they don't do it. Therefore, they don't get the outcome. Everybody following me so far? So if you know a person, think about this. Anybody you know who is successful, You could be successful, but I'm saying, let's say somebody else who you don't know, who's not listening to me right now. Think of the most successful person you know. Next time you talk to them, ask them the question, what is the key to them succeeding consistently? Ask them, like, you seem to be always so successful. You always seem to be winning and you're making things happen and you're doing what you want to do and living how you want to live. Ask them, what is it that causes them to be a successful person? This is a really good question. You should ask anyone you know who is successful. Most of them, I'm going to guess how they're going to respond. Most of them, because this is the way most people just think by default, most of them will start talking about their actions. They'll talk about their habits and their activities and the things they do, or I got this team, or I got this sales funnel, or I started selling this product, or I got this job over here, or I just work hard every day. These are things people usually default to when you ask them why they're successful. They'll just tell you the boilerplate stuff that everybody says when they win. It's like if you watch a award show, and some actor or actress or athlete wins an award and they get up on the stage, what's the first thing they usually do? Usually they thank God and they start talking about how hard they work and they start thanking all their team and the team works so hard. And people do this so often that people who are watching, the masses of people, listen to this stuff because this person is successful. Obviously, they just won an award. And we get conditioned into believing that the reason that someone is successful versus everybody else who didn't win the award is that they simply just work so hard. That's the reason they're successful. That's what everybody says, right? When someone wins an award, what's the reason they win? Usually only three things they point out. One, they thank God. All right. Two, they talk about how hard they work. And three, they talk about the people who helped them. And those are the three things people usually say when they are successful: God, hard work, and help. Well, guess what? God applies to everybody. So we can eliminate that. Hard work. Most people, even people who are not successful, work hard. So let's eliminate that. And then they say the people who helped them. And hey, maybe the people who helped them did get them there, but that's not the reason why they became successful. And that's why I'm explaining to you here. Most people default to talking about their actions when they succeed. But understand that people's habits that lead to success are consciously chosen habits. That's what I want you to get. People who succeed consistently and they have habits that lead them to success, they're not lying to you. So if you go talk to the most successful person you know, why are you successful? And they say, because I do these things. I got these 10 things I do every day. That's the reason I'm successful. They're not lying. Let's say they do actually do those 10 things. What they aren't telling you, because many people are not able to explain this because they don't understand it, is that they consciously chose those habits. Those habits did not just descend out of the sky and land in their lap one day and randomly they just all of a sudden they have these new habits. They chose to do this. You understand? They chose to do the things that lead to their success. And they made a decision to cut off everything that doesn't lead to their success. They cut off all the things that would get in their way or all the things that aren't going to help them get to the outcome. So the key point here, this is the first point, is decision. You have to cut off other options. And the reason many people don't want to cut off other options is because, number one, when you make a decision, you are committing to an outcome that now you're responsible for. And many people try to run from responsibility. This is the reason why many people are not successful and have no power and no influence, because you don't want to take the responsibility that comes with it as a package deal. And secondly, people want to have as many options as possible available to them as if you're eventually going to take any one of these options at any time. This is, remember that TV show Hoarders they used to have on TV? I don't know if it even still exists. Where people would just hold on to stuff. They would never throw it away. That's how people are when it comes to indecision. I just want to have every option available to me and never choose anything. You never commit to anything. It's the reason why you're not getting any outcomes. Because if you're trying to hold on to 10 different things, you can't focus on 10 things at once. You got to decide on one, focus on that one, and squeeze everything out of that one opportunity that you get. Everybody understand this? So the first one is choice/decision. Use whatever words you like. And I just explained why this matters. Point number two, we're talking here today about why some people seem to always succeed and why other people seem to always come up short. And I'll answer questions at the end, by the way. Number two, I got 3 points. So the second point is conditioning. So I just mentioned habits, right? Any habit that is performed consistently, and that's kind of an oxymoron, me even saying it, but a habit is something that you do consistently. That's why it's a habit. Any action, let's say, performed consistently becomes conditioned in you, is also known as a habit. All right, so all of you are familiar with the concept of habits, right? There are things that we just do without even thinking about it over and over again. We have habits of action. We have habits of thought. We have habits of talking. There are certain ways that people talk, certain words that certain people use all the time, and certain things that we do all the time. Any of you who drives to work, for example, you drive the same path to work every single time. Some days you get to work and you don't even remember driving to work. Why? Because you do it so often that your brain just basically deletes it because you did it so many times. Habits are a good thing, or they can be a bad thing. Depends on what your habits are. All right, and here's the thing you got to understand about habits. Habits control 85% of your life. 85% of your being is controlled by habit. What I mean by that is 85% of the things that you think and do, you do without consciously thinking about what you're doing. 85% of the things you think and do, you do without consciously thinking about what you're doing. This is why if you are learning a new skill, you're learning something that you didn't know how to do before, you have to go slowly and really keep thinking hard about what you're doing, because you're doing something that isn't aligned with your habits. So you got to do this new footwork pattern. Let's say if you're in the gym, or you're using this new software on your computer, and because it's not ingrained in your habits to do things with that software, you have to go slowly until you do it often enough that now you start picking it up. It's like if you move into a new house, for example, for the first week or two, when you move into the new house, you're going to be reaching for the light switch in the place where the light switch was at the old house until you get used to, the light switch is not on the right, is over here on the left. Eventually, you develop the habit of the light switch being on the left. Everybody understand what I'm saying? 85% of your behaviors are based in this, habits. You're not even consciously aware of what you're doing, but you're doing it anyway. Which means what? By deductive reasoning, any aspect of your life that you don't like, you need to look at the habits that are leading to that outcome. And then you have to change your habits in that aspect of life, because your habits are what made it like that. And any aspect of your life that you do like and you're happy and you're proud and is working, you need to look at the habits that led to that and do more of them and make sure you keep doing them on purpose. And maybe you can take the habits from the thing that's working and start applying them to the thing that's not working, as long as you have the discipline to do so, and you can start getting the outcomes. So my book, Work on Your Game, which you can see right here over my shoulder, wherever you are watching this. But the first chapter of that book, we talk about mental conditioning. And mental conditioning works the same as physical conditioning, in that you do something over and over and over again, such that not that everything becomes perfect, but such that when you do have to deal with the stuff of life, you can get over it rather quickly. Same way an athlete who's in good shape, they can run and get tired, but they only need 10 seconds to catch their breath and they can start running all over again. Whereas somebody who was in poor condition, they run and get tired. They need 10 days to get in shape and they can start running again, because they're not conditioned. They're not trained to deal with it. So when it comes to conditioning, folks, and remember that we said your mindset leads to your actions, actions lead to the outcomes. I remember playing sports, and we would, let's say I'm playing a team sport like basketball. As soon as the other team starts scoring some points, or they go on a run, or they have some momentum going, I had teammates who would mentally quit. They didn't physically quit. They didn't walk off the court. They would mentally quit, because I could see their shoulders slumping. Their energy went down. They stopped believing that we had a chance to win just because the opponent was getting some momentum against us. This is a reflection of conditioning. So going to our bigger point here today, why some people seem to always win and why some people seem to always lose is because, as Vince Lombardi, the legendary football coach, once said, winning is a habit and so is losing. And many people are conditioned to lose, and therefore they just keep losing. And why is this? It's because of another law called inertia. If you are not familiar with the law of inertia, you may have heard its explanation. I'm going to give you some everyday common language that explains the law of inertia. The law of inertia states that an object in motion shall remain in motion, and an object that is not in motion shall remain not in motion until or unless acted upon by an outside force. And furthering that definition, it takes more energy to change the direction or the state of an object than it does to maintain the state of an object. In other words, if someone has momentum, it's easier for them to just keep going the way that they're going than it is to stop them. Or if someone is doing nothing, it's easier to keep doing nothing than it is to start doing something. All right, it takes more energy to change the state than it takes to maintain the state. So if you want to get some common language that we use every day, because most people don't walk around talking about the law of inertia, it's momentum and stagnation. All of you have heard those words before, right? Momentum means you're an object in motion and it's easier to just stay in motion because you're already moving. Whereas stagnation means you're an object that's not in motion and it's easier to keep doing nothing than it is to do something. So any of you ever been in a situation where you're sitting at home, you're sitting on the couch and you're not really doing anything and you're not really quite sure what you want to do with your time. And then you get an idea. Oh, I should go do something. I should go to the gym. I should go to the grocery store. I should clean out the garage. I should take a shower. I should do this. I should do that. And while you're thinking about doing it, you realize that it would be really hard for you to do it because now you have to break the inertia of doing nothing to start doing something. It's easier for you to just sit there and let the day go away, just let the day waste away than it would be for you to get up and do something. Or any of you, for example, who works out, any of you who runs, for example, or you cycle, ride a bike. When you're in the middle of that run or you're in the middle of riding a bike, it's easier to just keep running or keep riding than it would be to stop. To stop actually takes energy, more energy than it would for you to keep running, even though it doesn't seem to make sense, right? It takes more energy for me to keep running because it's hard to run. It's hard to ride a bike, but it's easier to keep going once you get into momentum than it would be for you to stop. All right, this is what the law of inertia is. So what does this have to do with winning and losing? A whole lot, everything, because a person who is consistently successful is easier for them to keep succeeding than it would be for them to stop succeeding. And a person who is consistently failing, it is easier for them to keep failing than it would be to start succeeding. Now, this does not mean that just because you're winning, you're just going to keep winning you're just going to keep winning all the time, because I said it's easier. I didn't say it's impossible. And if you're losing, that doesn't mean it's impossible for you to start winning. It just means it takes more energy for you to change the situation than it takes for you to maintain the situation. So remember when I talked about the status quo and maintaining and staying in the same spot? It takes more energy to change your state than it takes to maintain your state, regardless of what state you are in. So, for example, I'm talking right now and I'm flowing and talking about the things I'm talking about. It's easier for me to keep talking about this stuff than it is for me to stop talking about it. Why? Because I'm already in the state of doing it. It'd be harder for me to just stop and do nothing right now than it would be for me to keep talking. Everybody understand what I'm saying? This is the law of inertia. If you're in a car, for example, and your car is going 40 miles per hour down the road, what's easier for you to do? Let the car keep going or to stop the car? If you press on the brake, let's say the car in front of you stops immediately, or some kid or a dog or a deer runs out in front of your car, you got to slam on the brakes. It takes a lot of energy to stop the momentum of that car. You got to slam on the brake to get that car that's going 40 miles per hour to stop moving. But if you do nothing, if you take your foot off the gas and off the brake and just let the car cruise, what's going to happen? It's just going to keep going. At 40 miles per hour, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to give any extra energy. The car just keeps going. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? This is the law of inertia. I'm giving you some mechanical examples, some mental examples, and some life examples. I'm giving you different examples, but it's the same law. And again, this is a law, folks. It's not a theory. Meaning nobody is exempt and no one can opt out of this. Meaning this applies to you whether you want it to or not. All right, the law of inertia is easier to keep going than it is to stop, and it's easier to keep doing nothing than it is to start. Now, again, if you want to change the situation, let's say one of you is listening to this right now. I'm assuming everybody here wants to succeed and win. So let's say that right now you feel like you're on a losing streak. Things are not quite working the way that you want them to work. And by the way, no matter how successful a person is, everyone deals with setbacks, challenges, if you want to call them failures, losses, whatever you want to call them. Everyone deals with this. The difference is, is a person conditioned to get back to winning, or are they conditioned to keep losing? That's the only difference. So, for example, all you know who Michael Jordan is, right? One of the best stats about Michael Jordan, aside from the main things that everybody knows, is that from 1991, when they won their first championship, through 1998, when they won the sixth championship, the Chicago Bulls, when Jordan was on the team, never lost more than 2 games in a row. They never had a 3-game losing streak for, let's just say that 6 years. So not counting the years that he wasn't playing. But during that 6 years, the Bulls never lost 3 games in a row. And mind you, they're playing 82 games a season and then another 20 or so games in the playoffs. They never lost 3 games in a row. And why am I explaining that? I'm explaining that because in sports, any of you who's ever played a sport, you know that a team that momentum applies to groups the same way it applies to people. So if a team gets on a losing streak, losing 2 games in a row, it's easier to lose a 3rd and 4th and a 5th game in a row than it would be to reverse the energy and win the next game. Now the question is, well, why is it that the Bulls never lost that 3rd game in a row? Why didn't they just lose the 3rd game in a row? Because a guy like Jordan and his teammates and coaches all say this, like he just would not allow the team to go on a losing streak. So if they lost 2 in a row, he would just do whatever he had to do to make sure they won that 3rd game. And if you watch that documentary they put out about the Bulls a couple of years ago, The Last Dance, you see him talking about this. In that last season, 1998, the Bulls started off kind of slow. They were losing games. Scottie Pippen was injured. And then Michael Jordan was like, look, I'm going to push these guys. I'm going to do whatever we got to do, but we are going to make sure we're in position to be champions at the end of the season, even if it's not looking so good right now. So if they lost 2 in a row, that 3rd game, all right, he made sure he showed up, and he made his teammates show up. The whole point here, folks, is, again, if you understand this law of inertia, you can start conditioning yourself for whatever outcome you want. You want to condition yourself to be successful. Okay, what are the habits and the actions, and what are the habits and actions that lead to success for you? You need to know. And the better you know, the better you can condition yourself to doing them. So if you know making 10 phone calls a day is something that will lead to success, but you're not comfortable making 10 calls a day. Again, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you got to condition yourself to do it and get used to doing it. And once you make 10 calls a day every day for a month, now making 10 calls a day is easy. But a month ago it was difficult and you thought you could never do it, but now it's nothing to you. Now you could do 10, maybe you can do 15. You can do 15, maybe you can do 20. And now if that's leading to your success, now you can keep doing it. Now you have a habit. You have a habit of doing this and it becomes part of your normal everyday thing. Therefore, to not do it feels awkward. Everybody understand? See, when you build the right momentum of doing things that work for you, to stop doing it doesn't even feel right. Like I'm a person who, my background is in sports, but I haven't played sports professionally for it's been almost 10 years since I stopped playing sports, but I still work out every day. So if I was to work out today, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. If I had worked out today, not worked out, but woke up today and not worked out, I would feel weird. And working out is hard. Working out takes effort. You burn a lot of calories. You got to eat some food. You may need some rest time. You're sweating. And I live in Miami. It's 90 degrees at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning out here. It's hot and it takes a lot of energy. Yet I would feel more crazy if I did not exercise than if I did exercise. Exercising just feels normal to me. If I didn't exercise, I would not have the same energy right now, even though technically not working out should be saving me energy, right? It doesn't even make sense, right? But if you think about it, any of you who works out every day, you know exactly what I mean. You can't not work out because you're so used to doing it that you built the habit, you developed the momentum, and the inertia is working to keep you doing the same thing. And mind you, another thing about the law of inertia, folks, it does not care if it's good or bad for you. The laws of the universe they're not positive or negative. They have no personal opinion on your outcomes. Meaning, negative momentum works the same as positive momentum. So the example that I gave you of a sports team going on a losing streak, and they lose 2 games in a row, then they lose 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. The law of inertia does not care that you're losing or if you're winning. Whichever one you want to do, it works. So people who are successful, they tend to keep winning because of the law of inertia, and people who are unsuccessful, they tend to keep losing for the same reason. The law of inertia. The good news about this is whichever direction you're going, let's say you're in the unsuccessful direction, the same things that made you start losing are the same things that can make you start winning. You just got to flip the equation around. But you need a whole lot of energy if you're going this way to stop the car, turn around and go the other direction. That energy burst, that's the decision. So this is why I told you the first point at first. The first point is I make the decision. I'm going this way. I want to stop going this way. The decision is the energy that you need to stop the car. All right, to slam on the brakes. Now that you made the decision, now you flip the car around and now you start going in that direction. The same energy that got you going here can get you going there. That's the good news. Number 3, we're talking here today about why some people consistently win and some people consistently do not win. After this point, I'll take questions and comments, by the way. So if you have one, if you put it in the comments or you have one, you can put it in the comments now. Third reason, expectations. Expectations. Here's the thing you should remember about expectations, ladies and gentlemen, is that in the long run of your life, your life will be a direct reflection of what you expect. So any of you who's over the age of 18, listen to me right now. Let's not even say 18. Let's say 25. You're over the age of 25. Maybe you haven't been independent long enough for it to matter. When you're a child, I'm excluding people who are kids. So if you're under 18, listen to this right now. I'm excluding you because you don't have as much autonomy and as much say over your life as an adult does. Because maybe your parents just tell you what you can do, what you can't do, and you don't really have a say. I get that part. But if you're 25 or older, any of you listen to this. Your life right now is a direct reflection of what you have expected of yourself up to this very moment. Like it or not. And for most people, I would guess that there are some areas where you're like, you know what, that's a good thing. And there are some areas where you're like, damn, that's a bad thing. Most people have that. Nobody has a perfect life. Everyone has things that they want to fix, make better, change, adjust, etc. Your life is a direct reflection of your expectations up to this point. Don't take that as a negative. Don't take it as a positive. Take it as a thing. It's just what it is. All right. The reality is just reality. Reality is not positive or negative. It's just what it is. Now, understand that your life tomorrow, I'm using tomorrow as a metaphor, is going to be a reflection of your expectations now. All the expectations up to this point and what you do today, what you expect today is going to be reflected back to you tomorrow. So your life is just a mirror reflecting to you the expectations you've had of yourself. Therefore, if you change your expectations right now from whatever you've been expecting to what you do expect, what's going to happen is, first of all, your focus is going to change. Because if you truly expect something, then you're going to start focusing on that expectation. This is the reason why I had this thing that I called a life-changing 48-hour experiment. And the experiment is you just going 48 hours straight without allowing yourself to think negatively about any aspect of your life. If you do that and you focus only on the things that you want for 48 hours straight, I guarantee you're going to have a big change in your life happen within that 48-hour period. The reason why I can guarantee that is because so few people are able to go 48 hours straight by keeping their mind focused on a specific thing or not allowing it to focus on negativity. You'd be surprised if any of you actually tried that and thought about it constantly. You'd be surprised at how easily your mind defaults to negative thinking. And if you can get over that and stop doing it, it will change your life very quickly. Without a change in resources, luck, talent, skill, resume, any of that, you can change your life very quickly if you could just change your mentality and change what you focus on by focusing only on the outcomes that you want. Again, expectations. So your choices and your conditioning are a reflection of your expectations. So let me give you an example. If you expect to be in really great shape, what do? Anyone who expects to be in great shape, any of you listening to this who is in great shape, what are the expectations behind that outcome? Maybe, again, many of you, if you're listening to this and you are in great shape, unless you happen to do the type of work that I do where I kind of deconstruct these things, you probably don't even think about it. But think about the expectations that come, the actions that follow that expectation. Because action follows expectation. You truly expect something, you take action behind it. So if I expect to be in great shape, well, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Let's say I'm in terrible shape, but I expect to be in great shape. First thing I'm going to do is, all right, I got to figure out how often I'm going to work out because I know I need to work out to be in great shape. So that means I need to go get a membership to a gym, or I need to sign up for one of these workout apps, or I need to find some workouts on YouTube that I can do in my living room, or I need to hire a personal trainer or sign up for some boot camp classes. I got to do something that reflects the expectation. Everybody understand? When you truly expect something, you take actions that reflect your expectation. If you are walking to work and there's a 20-minute walk to get to work, there's a 20-minute walk to get home, and you expect that it's going to rain when you come home today, you will carry an umbrella. True or not? That's what an expectation looks like. If you expect to be in great shape, you have access to a gym or access to a workout program, and you have some workout clothes, or you got a workout buddy, or you have a personal trainer, or you have something that aligns with the expectation. If you expect something, then your actions are aligned with the expectation. In other words, another person who is not you, I could take a look at you and look at your habits and look at the way you conduct yourself over the course of a day, and I could tell you what your expectations are for your life just based on your actions, because actions are a reflection of expectation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how it works. Actions are a reflection of expectation. So if you're telling yourself that you expect these things to happen in your life, you need to look at your actions over the last 24 hours and ask yourself, do my actions align with these expectations? It is a binary yes or no, black or white. Do my actions reflect my expectations? And if the answer is no, be honest with yourself. If the answer is no, be honest with yourself. The good news is you can do something about it right now. And if the answer is yes, then just ask yourself, okay, are these actions getting me where I want to go? Yes or no? And maybe this one, there can be some gray area. You can make your adjustments, but actions always reflect expectations. And this is why, if you really want to know what somebody's about, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. So everyone's heard the phrase talk is cheap, and talk is people saying things are a dime a dozen, or I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking too loudly. Y'all have heard these sayings before, right? Now there are some cliches that are nonsense, but many cliches are based in truth, somewhat, if not in whole. Now, this one is based in truth in whole. If you really want to know what somebody's about, don't listen to them talk, watch what they do. Watch their actions. If you want to be like let's say somebody you look up to, some influencer or athlete or entrepreneur or somebody you know personally, and you want to emulate them in some way, sure, you can listen to what they say, but also watch what they do. Watch their actions. Look at their behavior, because their behavior is a reflection of what they really believe. How many of you ever had somebody tell you something that was a complete lie? How many of you ever told yourself a lie? How many of you ever told somebody else a lie? All right. All humans lie. Sometimes it's like egregious lies, and sometimes it's like little white lies, but we all tell lies because with our words, we can deceive, right? We can tell people anything with our words, and people can tell you anything. But we all know, again, any of you who's had enough life experience and dealt with enough people, you understand you really don't always need to trust what somebody says, just to trust what they do. You judge people by their actions, not by their words. These people say anything. Is this true or not? Again, people you like will say anything. People you hate will say anything. Expectations are reflected in actions. So do you expect to win or you expect to lose? That's my question to all of you. Rhetorical question from me to you is not a rhetorical question from you to you. When you ask yourself, it's not a rhetorical question. You need to answer. Who do you see when you look in the mirror? When you go to a situation not knowing what the outcome will be, what are you expecting the outcome to be? I know you don't know. I'm asking, what do you expect? Now, often I'll ask somebody a question about expectation. Their answer will be, I don't know. Well, I didn't ask you what you knew. I'm asking you what you expect. What is your expectation? And you may have heard some people say something like, well, I think it's best to go into a situation with no expectations whatsoever. Therefore, I can't be disappointed. That's nonsense. That's loser language. Go into a situation with no expectations is loser language. What did I tell you about the law of entropy? If you do nothing, then the default is failure and descension into chaos and disorder. Doing nothing, i.e. having no expectations, is a formula for failure. If you want to be successful, you must expect success. Success does not happen by accident. You know anybody who ever got successful by accident? It doesn't happen. All right. You're walking down the street, you go outside today, any of you's already outside, and you see a person who's in really good shape, male or female, and you ask them, hey, mister, hey, miss, how did you get in such great shape? Does any of them say, oh, damn, I don't know. I never even thought about it. I just woke up like this and I'm just in great shape. I don't do anything. It just randomly happened. All right. You know anybody who would ever say that? Of course not. It doesn't happen. You know anybody who has a lot of money? Do they say, oh, it just randomly? I don't know. I didn't do anything. It just happened. All right. Didn't happen. You know anybody who's really good at anything? It didn't just randomly happen. There was an expectation and actions behind it, all sourced from a decision. That's how they got there. Now, again, I'm referring to adults. Now, sometimes you might be a kid. A kid might be a great athlete or in great shape, and they didn't even try because they just had good genetics. But by the time you get to about age 25, especially by age 30, if you're not doing something on purpose to stay in shape, you will not be in shape. All right, I've seen this one many times, and some of you probably have too. If you haven't, then go to your high school reunion. If you know exactly what I mean. All right, some of you might just need to look in the mirror. All right, if we're being honest, if we're keeping it real here. So when you go into a situation without knowing its outcome, what do you expect? And again, I'm not asking you what you know. I'm asking you what you expect. If you're a salesperson, for example, and you go into a sales presentation, are you expecting to close the sale? Or are you going in there with no expectations so you don't feel disappointed if the person doesn't buy? If you go in there thinking like that, you won't be in the sales business for long. You might as well quit now. Anything you are doing, do you go into it with a positive expectation of achieving your desired outcome? And by the way, do you even know what your desired outcome is? Here's another challenge that I find with a lot of people, period, in all different walks. You're not even clear on what you want to happen. You go into a sales conversation, you should know exactly what you want to happen, exactly what they're going to say, and exactly if you have multiple options, exactly which one you want them to buy. You should go into the conversation with that already implanted in your head, in your subconscious mind, because that is anchoring it in your mind, and that will lead to certain actions, that will lead you saying certain things, it leads to a certain energy, and that influences the person that you're talking to. Now, some of you might think that's some woo-woo stuff. You call it whatever you want, but I tell you it works. We're in a results-based business. When you show up with an expectation of a certain outcome, that energy influences everybody else in the room. When you show up with an expectation of losing, your energy influences everybody else in the room. If you're a performer and you show up on the stage with an expectation of being nervous and anxious, and I think the audience is going to laugh at me and they're not going to trust me, the way you communicate is giving off the energy that you don't believe in yourself. That's going to cause the audience to not believe in you. Do we all agree that all of you have probably heard the saying that 85% of communication is nonverbal? All of you heard that before, right? Whether it's 70%, 50%, 90%, whatever the number. The majority of communication is nonverbal. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And what does how you say it mean? It means your energy. It means the way that you show up, the way you carry yourself. People are judging you based more on that than they're basing on your actual words. So even if you're not a wordsmith and you're not perfect with your language, the way you say things has much more influence than what you actually say. Most people forget what you say anyway. I've been talking for 44 minutes here, according to this timer. Most of you are not going to remember most of what I said, but you will remember how you feel when I'm saying it. You are going to remember the energy with which I'm saying it. Do you believe that I believe what I'm talking about? Do you believe that I know what I'm talking about? Now, how do you know? The way you know is judging based on my energy. And it's the same thing with you when you go out into the world and you're communicating with other people, even if you're not talking. The way you carry yourself, the way you walk into and out of a room is a nonverbal communication. And people are picking up on that and deciding whether they like you or not in that moment. I'll give you a little anecdote. When I was a senior in college, I have a business degree, and in the business major at Penn State University, you had to do an internship. And at your internship was like a 9-credit thing that you did usually in your senior year. Some people did it in their junior year. And you had to take this little 1-credit class that was like prep for the internship. And when I did the internship prep, our teacher, her name was Mrs. Wood. She had us all do a, what do they call these? Like a practice interview. I forget the word that they use, but like a simulated interview. So like if you were going to get a job when you get out of college, it was her and like some businessman from in town. They would be like the hirers, the HR staff, and each student, we had a scheduled time that we would come in for like a 20-minute interview. So what do they call that word they use? It was like a practice run. Yeah, mock. That's the word. No loose ends. Thank you. A mock interview. So we went in for the mock interview. And before we did the mock interview, yes, Grizzly Fur, thank you. So the mock interview was like 20 minutes. And she told us, she said, the most important thing that I remember from that mock interview, actually it was 2 things. One of them was make sure you follow up after the interview and just thank the person for giving you the opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. I remembered that because follow-up was one of the most important parts of sales. And the other one was what she called the rules of 12. And I never heard anybody talk about this before. I haven't heard anyone talk about it since. The rules of 12 mean this. There's 3 things. Number 1, when you walk into a room, people notice the 12 inches from the top of your head down to about your collarbone. So how your face looks, how your hair looks, if you're a woman, if you have makeup on, if you got something stuck in your teeth, if you're a man, how's your shirt collar look and is your tie knotted the right way if you have a tie on, assuming you're at a job interview. The first 12 inches from here. And then secondly, they notice the 12 inches from the floor up to your leg. So what kind of shoes you have on, are your nails painted if you have open-toed shoes on, are your pantyhose ripped, what kind of socks you got on, are your cuffs of your pants clean, are your shoes shined? That's the bottom 12. And then the third thing is the first 12 seconds when you walk in the room makes a huge impression on whether or not you're going to get the job. 3 things, the rules of 12, top of your head, bottom of from your feet up. And then the first 12 seconds of the engagement determine whether it's going to go good or it's going to go bad. And what I want you all to understand about that is this. As I just told you or reminded you, because many of you probably heard this before, that again, is not what you say, is how you say it. You heard me say it if you listen to these when I do these streams. 85% of communication is nonverbal, or at least more than half, whatever number you've heard, is nonverbal. Therefore, that first 12 seconds, and people have said this, studies have shown this, that the first 12 seconds of an interaction, a person has already determined whether it's a yes or a no. You go on a date, any of you who's in the dating market, or you remember being in the dating market, the first 12 seconds of the interaction, the other person decided whether there's going to be a second date or not. But they might sit there for an hour and talk to you and have dinner and all that stuff. But they already decided yes or no in the first 12 seconds. Most of the time. Now, most people, if you ask them, they're not going to admit to that. They'll say, no, I thought about it and I had to go through the whole date and see where this person was at and think about it a little bit and weigh the pros and cons. And then I made a decision. See, that's a logical justification. Most of us will logically explain our justification for why we came to a decision as if we did all this complex thinking about the situation. We did not. We decided very quickly what it was. And then we just we spent that hour coming up with justifications for why our decision that had already been made was our decision. That's how human beings think. That's how we are wired. We're wired like that. All human beings are susceptible to this. Even if you're a very logical person or you're a very emotional person, we all make decisions the same way. We make a decision relatively quickly, and then we spend time coming up with a reason that sounds good to explain our decision. Because if we just said I decided in the first 12 seconds, then most people will think, well, why didn't you take more time? Why don't you think about it more? Because again, when we're thinking consciously, we tend to default to logic, but we make our decisions based on something other than logic. So again, we're talking about expectations here on this third point. Do you have an expectation of being successful? Yes or no? Again, if your expectations are weak, then it makes sense that your actions are weak. If your expectations are weak, your actions are weak, your outcomes are weak. If your expectations are strong, your actions are strong, your outcomes are strong. And when I say strong, I mean you're getting what you want. When I say weak outcomes, that means you're getting maybe something that kind of looks like what you want, but not quite. Stronger your expectations, the stronger the outcome. And again, this starts in the mindset, folks. This starts in the way that you think. It starts in thought, and then it moves on to actions. From actions, it moves to outcomes. Be, do, have. Who you are being, what you do, what you have in that order, always. Let's recap my points. You got a question or comment, put it in the comment section now. We're talking here today about why some people succeed and other people seem to fail, and it seems to be consistent all the time. Number one, choice, or what's called decision. Decision means cutting off every other option besides the one you have chosen. Many people don't make decisions, and indecision, Napoleon Hill said this in Think and Grow Rich, is one of the 31 major causes of failure. People's lack of decision making. It's not that you can't make a decision, people just simply don't make decisions. This is causing you to fail. Number two, conditioning. Any habit that gets performed over and over again, that's what a habit is, it keeps going. All right, this is the law of inertia. Momentum and stagnation are different sides of the same coin known as inertia. And momentum can work positively the same way it can work negatively. You can get momentum working for you, or you can have momentum working against you. It works the exact same way. Your job is to decide what type of momentum you want. And remember, it takes more energy to change the situation than it takes to continue. That's why people who are winning tend to win, and it seems easy. And people who are losing tend to lose. No matter what they do, they keep losing because they don't understand the law of inertia. Number three, expectations. If you expected to rain, you carry an umbrella. Or you expect to be in great shape, you have a gym membership. Whatever it is that you expect, you are doing things around it. So if you want to know what somebody's really about, look at their actions. Their actions will reflect what they expect of themselves. Someone's telling you one thing, but their actions don't reflect it. Believe the act. What do you believe? The actions or the words? Of course, you believe the actions. So you got a question or comment, put it in the comment section. I'll address them right now. Let me check on my streams what we got. Let me go over to TikTok. And oh, by the way, before I even get into the comments, any of you wants to work with me directly, or people sometimes ask, who are you? What do you do? WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. There's a link in my bio, wherever you are watching this. The link in my bio is to WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. That's where I do all of my coaching. That's where we do our consulting. You get access to our courses, our trainings. When I take these lives off of these apps, then you can find the archive of these there. And I've done thousands of these over the years, literally thousands of them. Then you get access to all of that as a member of the university. That's WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Now, you got a question on Instagram, put it in there. Once I go through TikTok, then I'll get over to IG. And someone asked, do I have a profession? Yes, so I just explained that. Shout out to the new people here. Someone said, look at the camera. I got 3 different cameras here, so I'm looking at 3 different cameras. Orlando, good morning. Shout out to Orlando. No, it actually gets more hot in Orlando than it gets in Miami, but it also gets more cold. And I got a wider range of temperature up there. Sometimes I look at it because I go to Orlando often for conferences and events. There's a lot of conferences in Orlando. I need to go to Disney World. Matter of fact, shout out to Disney World. Let's see. Oh, shout out to thank you for the rose. Thank you for the roses y'all sent in the gifts. Everybody on TikTok, thank you for those gifts that you sent on TikTok. Donnie says, if you got the secret to make money and breed success, you wouldn't make books about it. It's not a secret. That's the part you got wrong there, Donnie. But it's not a secret. Making money and breeding success are not secrets. So if anybody says they have a secret to success, they're using it kind of in a metaphorical way. But I've never said I had a secret to anything. There ain't secrets. Just a matter of will you apply it. That's the actual secret. Secret, if you want to call it that. Someone said MJ is the GOAT. I agree. MJ is the GOAT. Let's see. Derek K. Vuma. I don't know what are you referring to? If you're talking to me, I don't know if you're talking to me when you said that. Yes, mock interview. Thank you for that. Rich Game Wealth said, if you can give one everyday key piece of advice, what would it be? That's a very broad question. If I give you one, is tune into these live streams and listen to me. But you got to ask me a more specific question than that. If you got a question or comment on Instagram, I'm going to address them right now and see what we got. Oh, yeah, WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com while you are here. Listen to that. No loose ends. Glad you got value out of this. So you were just talking about that the other day. Good stuff. Crespo Realty, good morning. Good to see you as usual. Let's see. The real CEO. Stop and go driving burns more fuel. Yes, exactly. Right. So every time you stop, it takes more energy than if you just go straight without stopping. Exactly. That's the law of inertia, mechanically. Crespo said, talking trash and think you don't see their actions. Yeah, that's right. Choice, condition, expectation. Yes, no loose ends. You got it right. Exactly. Choice, conditions, expectations. Or I even like decision better than choice. I should have called it decision. Question is, how do you stay on top of your game? Mentorship, ambition. Yes, all of the above. and conditioning, like I talked about. Now, actually, the 3 things I just told you about, the 3 things you just said: decision to stay on top of the game, because it is a choice. It doesn't happen by default. Second is the conditioning, conditioning yourself to do it, doing the stuff over and over again, so it becomes a natural habit. So I don't have to think about it. Again, like being in shape is a habit. So any of you who works out every day, you would feel weird if you didn't work out. Even though working out takes effort, it still feels weird to not do it. And it's the same thing with any other aspect. And third, expectation. I expect to stay on top of my game. So because I expect it, I do things that reflect my expectations. And No Loose Ends said, if you want to hide something from poor people, put it in the book. Yeah, I've heard that. Success and failure are not an accident. Exactly. Let's see. All right, I've answered everything. So everybody, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to have me as your coach and work with me directly, get access to all of our trainings, courses, etc. The other thing is people ask about these lives. I do these every morning starting Monday through Friday, not every day. Monday through Friday starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes we start a little bit late, but I usually start anywhere between 8 o'clock and 8:30 a.m. So just turn on your notifications or whatever you do on one of these apps. And I'll start between 8 and 8:30, Monday through Friday. I do these live. So we'll be another one tomorrow. And then when these come off the apps, then you will put them in the back end of our university. Yes, you got it right. The real CEO. You are absolutely right. So everybody knows what it is. Everybody have a great Wednesday out here, whatever day it is. If you're watching this on replay, I'll see you all tomorrow. We out here. Work on your game.